Hey everyone, welcome back to North Idaho Tables YouTube channel. This will be our second video we've made on the channel. In today's video, I'm making 2 waterfall benches. We just start out with some nice black walnut lumber. In order to glue up, I need to straight line everything, which is what I'm doing with the track saw. I'm also using my domino jointer, getting those all prepped for glue up. I've had a few people tell me that track saw isn't good enough to be able to use for glue up on tables, but I've had really good luck with it. No issues for myself. One thing to keep in mind though is keep track of where your joints are going to be, so you're not putting a domino right where you're going to cut. Don't ask me how I know. I'm able to get this nice black walnut 8-quarter lumber in Spokane from Kelly over at Discount Hardwoods. He's got tons of wood if you're in the area. It's worth reaching out to him. So once the glue is dry on these, I cut it right down the middle. I was able to get some pretty wide boards, so able to make 2 benches out of 3 boards. Here I'm just cutting the ends off, cleaning them up, so that way I have a straight edge I can measure from, so I can lay out the miter cuts. I've only done the waterfall joint a few times now. I try to leave myself a little bit of wiggle room, so I leave about 1 inch overall on the height, so that way if I want to change it, I can. One of the next steps is laying out where your dominoes are going to be or how many dominoes you're going to use. I decided to use 3 on each joint. I felt like it was a good number. I almost did 4, but I didn't feel like it was necessary. Do yourself a favor right here. Make your lines nice and long, because once you do the miter cut, all that material goes away, and then when you go to use your jointer, you don't really have anything to line up on. I learned the hard way on a desk I was doing. It was just a real pain to get everything to line up because I didn't make those marks big enough. Nick over at Maverick Sawmill suggested I cut these joints first just as a 90 and then cut the 45s. So here's what it looks like if you didn't do a waterfall joint. Still looks cool, but here's what you can get if you do. Now that desk I should have filmed, but I was learning and I didn't want to film my very first waterfall joint, but it turned out beautiful, so next time. You guys might have noticed in the beginning I wasn't using the Festool clamps on the track saw because I just couldn't justify spending the $50 that they wanted for them, but I finally did because waterfall joint's got to be perfect. I set the track saw basically flush with the end of the wood there. I did do a few different practice pieces on some scrap wood. I feel like you got to get this 45 exact, because if you don't, you're going to fight it when it comes time to gluing up. You're going to have a gap on one end or the other, and you're just not going to be happy with it. Once your saw is set up, it's pretty easy, honestly. Just make sure you clamp good and take your time. I recently bought this domino joiner from Festool. Now, I only have a few Festools, but they're worth the money. They do what they say they're going to do, and that's to me, that's one of the most important things. There's a few different settings on the tool, but I use the middle one, so it's not a crazy tight fit on the dominoes. Gives you a little bit of play in case your grain doesn't line up just right. I like to do a quick dry fit with everything before putting glue on it, because once you put glue on it, I feel like there's kind of no going back. Is it just me, or does that sound remind you of the intro of Law and Order? You might see in a few of the shots, you'll see kind of a black spot on the screen, and I do apologize. That was my fault. I was welding, had the GoPro set up a little bit too close, and I got some spatter on the lens and waiting on a new one to come in. Now, when it comes time to actually doing the glue ups, I'm not quite sure how everybody else is doing them, but I kind of feel lucky. I've got this fab table that basically is perfect 90 degrees, and it's honestly kind of like cheating. I can just set it up here. I can clamp it to the table and hold the perfect 90 on that joint, and it comes out perfect. I'm pretty sure I use too much glue because I always make a big mess, but I'd rather have too much than not enough. So what's cool about this table is basically every single one of those holes is I can clamp anywhere. Now, a couple of them aren't quite perfect, and that's why you see me hammering my clamp in there, but it's pretty useful tool. I'm honestly not sure how people can get their waterfall joints so perfect without having something perfectly 90 to clamp to like that. One thing I like to joke about with people is, with wood, you mess up and there's not a whole lot you can do with it, but with metal, if I cut too much off, I can always add it back, but it's not the case with wood. To me, this is what makes or breaks a waterfall joint. If that grain doesn't line up perfect, everybody's going to see it and it's going to stand out. The lumber that I picked up from Kelly was actually super clean. I only had like one knot out of the 3 boards, so super quick, easy, a little bit of epoxy, fill it up, let it dry, and sand it off. Then I took a router with a round over bit, just rounded everything over so it was a little bit softer to the touch and you're not getting the lines in your back of your legs when you're sitting on it for too long. I feel like sanding's pretty boring to watch, so here's a quick clip of sanding this table, but go through all the grits, water pop in between, and then it's time for Rubio. Mentioned it in the first video, but Rubio is my go-to. So far I haven't found anything else that I like more. I like to apply it with my little orbital sander, just with some microfiber towels. Well, thanks for watching. Here's a little glimpse of our next video, this table build. But here's what the finished benches looked like. I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. You can see more and let us know in the comments what you think. Appreciate it, you guys.